Hello, Internet. This is take 2 this evening, and actually, it's about take 5 of this last week because I have just been having that situation where I want to record a video and I want to speak from my heart, but it seems like every time I hit record, I either can't get my thoughts together the way I want to, or I get a minute or two into the video and I just feel like I'm not really saying what I want to say. It's almost like I'm just trying to get a video done to check the box and say I did a video. And that is not what I want, and it's not what you want. So anyway, this is Sunday evening. It's around 6 o'clock, and this is take 2. And I'm gonna try again. So the point of these videos is for me to just be real with you guys and to let you know how I'm thinking or what I'm thinking, how I'm feeling. And the point is not to just give a Dear Diary approach to, the events that are going on. So I apologize if that's ever how it comes across, because that's not what I want. I'd rather just skip it altogether if I'm not being real and straightforward with you. So I'm not into Dear Diary. I'm not into, bullet points. That's not why I sit or stand and do these videos at all. So the things that I love the most are when I feel like I'm truly and genuinely sharing from my heart and things are just flowing, kind of free-form style. So that's my goal all the time. Whether 15 people see this or 50 or 500, I just want to be sharing honestly with you guys. So there we go. That's 2 minutes and 16 seconds of a preamble of sorts. I had my 4th treatment this week, back on Tuesday. It was a challenging situation that I had. There's always blood work before my treatment. And my blood work showed very low magnesium. And my magnesium has been traditionally low when I'm on treatment, but this time it was quite far below where it should be. So right away, my oncologist said, we need to give you 4 grams of magnesium. In the past, I've had a couple of grams. Each 1 gram of magnesium takes 1 hour to infuse because each gram is embedded in 25 milliliters of solution. So it drips very, very slowly. They want that magnesium to infuse very slowly and very gradually. So 4 grams of magnesium is 4 hours. The weather was bad in Minnesota last week. There was a storm, even though it was April 1st. Here in Minnesota, we're used to winter storms in April. Yes, we are. And it was one of those storms that was kind of under forecast because it wasn't supposed to be as crazy as it ended up. To make a long story short, my infusion started around 12:45 or 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and it should have been finished by about 3 if I would have just had my regular chemo and 2 grams of magnesium. But because we had the 4 grams, things were stretched out longer, and I actually had to transfer from the chemo infusion center to the main Mayo Clinic infusion treatment center because of the time. It got to be like 5 and 6 p.m. So anyway, I spent a total of 5 hours, 5.5 hours in 2 different infusion centers on Tuesday. And when I finished at about 6:30 p.m., it was starting to get dark, and it was snowing like crazy. I mean, super heavy snow. Like I said, the storm overperformed and ended up being much nastier. And I got online and, I'm a weather geek, so I'm always watching the radars and reading the discussions and, following the meteorological developments. And basically what I saw was that between Rochester and the southern suburbs of the Twin Cities, which is my destination, looked really bad, and that the roads, as the temperatures dropped to around freezing, the roads were going to get crappy. So I actually started driving back, and I was only a few miles into it, and I realized the left lane was getting snow covered. All the traffic was concentrated in the right lanes. Things slowed down to like 30 miles an hour, and I was like, what am I doing? It was getting dark, and here I have spent the whole afternoon getting a bunch of drugs pumped into my body, a bunch of poison. So I had a moment of clarity where I was like, this is ridiculous. And I took the next exit and went back into Rochester and ended up spending the night. So it was kind of a stressful day with the extra magnesium and the weather. So, okay, all of that aside, the week has been all right. I would say the sledgehammer effect, which I've talked about before, has not been as intense as maybe the 3 previous treatment cycles. But, I have talked a lot about how I have fortunately been able to escape the nausea and the vomiting and all that stuff. I've had no vomiting at all, but the 24 to 48 hours after that magnesium infusion, I felt really queasy. Not nauseous to the point of throwing up, but just queasy, like the thought of food, the sight of food just was like, oh, you're kidding me. Just that background, maybe a lot of you understand what that means. I have personally never been pregnant, but if you have been pregnant, maybe you know what that is. It was just, a sense of just queasiness, and it lasted for a couple days. And I will tell you, this is Sunday, which is now, let's see, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. This is 5 days after my infusion. This afternoon, I had sort of a recurrence of that queasiness. The other thing is that my skin condition has been horrible. My skin is so dry. My fingers, maybe I've shown you this before, but check it out. Can you see? My fingertips, they split. And no matter how much lotion I apply, they're constantly like drying out and splitting. And so, you need your fingers for everything. Try putting a fitted sheet onto a mattress with fingertips like this. Try opening a Tupperware or opening a can of soda. Doing dishes, even, you guys know that I have a stoma bag. So even going to the bathroom and dealing with that. So all of these things, I don't like to make these videos and just be like, blah, 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 wah, wah, wah. But at the same time, I also want to be real with you guys about what's going on. So the point is the skin issues, the dryness. I moisturize like crazy. It's a huge part of my day. I've got like 3 or 4 different creams and lotions that I'm supposed to put on. But it's very funny. No matter how much, I feel like I could put gallons of creams and lotions on my face, on my hands, on my chest, especially my shoulders, the back of my neck. And still, it's just bone dry and flaky and scaly, and again, with my hands, the fingertips are just splitting open. So that is one of the biggest challenges. Now that I've finished 4 cycles of treatment, and I can compare things to last summer, May, June, July, when I went through 4 cycles, I can say that the main difference this time around is that it's not the middle of the summer, so I haven't dealt with sun effects. I have been able to basically completely avoid the photosensitivity issues with regard to the sun, which last summer was very difficult, and that's what got me in bad shape with my skin. So you may be able to tell my face is red, but it's so much better than it was last year. So that's where things stand, just sort of on a mechanical level. I still have days that are good and days that are bad. There's times when I feel like, what's the point? And again, I'm being very honest with you. I go to places in my mind where I'm like, what's the point of just living to do treatment? And that may sound morose, it may sound negative or pessimistic, but I understand people who have cancer, they're fighting cancer, and they have to undergo chemo in order to stay alive. And I am so fortunate that so far, almost 2.5, we're still inside of 2.5 years into this. I'm not at the state of, I'm going to die soon if I don't get treatment. But it's more of a maintenance situation where I have to stay ahead of this. But, there's days when I just think, what's the point of like looking at your calendar and everything centers on treatment and everything is second or third place to treatment. And so you say, well, the treatment's keeping you alive. But again, what's the point of being alive if all you're doing is treatment? And again, I say that, and I know that there's people who are going to be triggered by that. But hey, it's the way the mind works, So I have times when I just feel like, okay, cancer is such a part of my life, and I can't ignore it. I can't be in denial. I can't just switch into happy, happy, joy, joy mode. People say, oh, just live your life. Just make plans. Well, that's easier said than done, because as I mentioned weeks ago, there was one point when I had 23 appointments on my calendar. And even now, we're looking at maybe the end of treatment after 5 cycles or 6, and a CT scan that's coming up at the end of the month. But still, there's follow-ups, and there are constant labs, to keep track of blood work. It just kind of goes on. And honestly, every single thing in life is second place to following up with the cancer. And again, you would say, well, Ken, thank God you're alive. You should be grateful that you're alive. How can you complain? I'm not complaining. I'm just telling you what the situation is. So I have days when I'm very upbeat and I'm very positive, and then I have days where I'm just like, okay, so I go through treatment and endure side effects just so I can have more treatment and more side effects later this year. There's no end game. And, that's just the reality of the thing. So I don't know, guys. This is one, there are videos when I just am kind of real with you, and there's people in my viewing audience that are in my mind, and I think, okay, they don't want to hear this. Some of them are family. People don't want to go on and listen to videos that are negative or pessimistic, but I would rather not do these videos if I'm not going to be real. And even this one, as I get to 14.5 minutes, in the back of my mind, there's this voice saying, delete this video, don't post it. So I don't know if you'll see this or not. If you're seeing it, it means that I ended up deciding to post it. But I don't know if it's a good video or if it's worthwhile or not. But it's the state of affairs as of Sunday evening, April the 6th, 2025. And I want you guys to know what the score is, you know? So that's it. Anyway, we'll close it now. Enough. Thank you.